Fantastic. Welcome, everybody.
Happy day.
Happy days. It is wild. We're laughing a little bit because backstage we're talking about how 2020 just keeps rolling on, right? The craziness of 2020. Oh, so glad to be putting this year to bed. Welcome, everybody. I'm Ryan Altunian. With me, as always, today on our Just Two Dads podcast is I liked what you said, Shawn. My partner in Thrive, Shawn Francis.
Yes.
How you doing, buddy?
I am well blessed, hectic, scattered, and deeply appreciative.
Yes, well, we're going to get into that in a second, but before we do that, we want to welcome our special guests today, and I think we're going to have a little bit of flexibility in all of this. But first of all, one of our started out as a guest, and she's really become a partner in the work that we're doing here. Susanna Lovell. She's a life coach, specializing in families with special needs issues, but just amazing all around, fantastic energy. Welcome, Susanna. How are you?
Oh, well, I'm okay. I'm here. And Shawn, I like how you ended all of those ways to describe how you're doing right now with and in gratitude, right? And we're thankful.
Yes.
So above all else, even though there continues to be like icing on the cake for 2020,
Yes.
all these little things. My plumbing broke today, and my daughter's having a meltdown in the other room. So, but I am grateful. So,
love that.
It's so good to be with you all, and it's so good to see you.
Fantastic. So, and I want to talk about our other special guest. I have a little propriety about it. We have spoken about her on this show on a pretty regular basis. This is my lovely daughter, my oldest child, and love of my life, Miss Jordan. She goes by Jo Quinones now because she's now a married woman. So is my daughter Jordan. Hello, Jordan.
Hi. Hello.
Is it mayhem for you? And Jordan is upstate New York. And just to let folks know, Shawn and Susanna and I are in Southern California, and Jo is on the other side of the country in upstate New York. How are things there in upstate New York, Jo?
Cold. Cold and snowy.
Cool.
We still have snow after the 3 feet of snow storm that we had last weekend. We are still in it.
Yeah. No, it's around the world, right? Folks are dealing with this part of the year differently, and so today our show is going to be focused on a few things. We're hoping at some point during the show that Shawn's son Elijah and Susanna's daughter Arizona will be joining us. It may or may not happen, as families with special needs children know, right? The one thing that we can all relate to is the fact that the one thing we can count on is that we can't count on certain things.
That's right.
Time may be marked by certain events, but that doesn't. That's a man-made construct, and our children are unique and individual and amazing beings, and sometimes they don't adhere to these man-made constructs. So we're hoping that we get a chance to see them because we've talked about them, and this show in particular, this episode, really want to talk about the holiday season and family and family traditions around the holidays. And as again we wind down this crazy year of 2020, we look forward to a new year. We want to be able to kick it off with loving stories and experiences and talk about our children who are so important to all of us. And we all come to this from different perspectives. Jordan is my oldest of 3 children. Shawn has Elijah is one of 7 children in Shawn's household, and Susanna and Arizona, their worlds are completely tied together in their home, and it's just 2 of them. So it's great to see these different family dynamics. So kicking off this and welcoming everybody. Thank you all for tuning in and listening to this podcast, and we've got some exciting things that are happening with the show in general. So we're really excited about where this is all going. So with that sort of a long setup, We are not known for making short comments. So it's one thing we're constantly working on, right? We are my team of people in my business. They call me Chief Longwind because I tend to go on.
That's
what they
hilarious.
call. Isn't that funny?
Okay. Yes.
But we're never looking for gaps in our time, other than how long is this conversation going to go? So with that being said, first of all. In our family, I'll just kick this off, and then want to hear Shawn and Susanna, you guys talk about this as well. In our family, I grew up Jewish, and Jordan's mom, who I'm no longer married to, but she also grew up Jewish. In my family, though, we celebrated Christmas as well as Hanukkah. So our family tradition was really a mixed bag. We lit a menorah and had a Christmas tree. We had Christmas Eve parties and Christmas Day parties and Hanukkah celebrations as well. So we really had it kind of mixed. Joe, does it sound about like our experience? Your experience enjoying the holidays was kind of all over the place, yeah?
Yeah, still is.
It still is. And so as we look at the holiday season, it's really less about the holidays that you celebrate and more about the family time together. And that's, for us, I think, the most important thing in all of this is that we talk about the family experiences, the family traditions. So, Shawn, what was your family tradition around the end of the year as we wrap up this season?
It's I hadn't even thought, this might sound strange, I hadn't thought of the holidays, end of the year, and what that means with a special needs component at all until maybe about 2 weeks ago. I don't remember. I don't know why, and this might be the reason why. There's a lot of these going around now, and I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or what, but a lot of events where, you have different neighborhoods that are really known for having prominent Christmas decorations and lights and stuff like that. In the San Fernando Valley here in Los Angeles, there is Candy King Lane, which is right in Woodland Hills, not too far from where my mom lives. And we're used to driving through there just, randomly, long lines of cars, people checking everything out. But they have had events this year where you actually buy tickets and they set a designated area that is lavishly decorated. And we did that for the first time because one of the most amazing things about my wife is that she just wants to make everything the best that she can for everyone else and bring everybody together. Here, let me just shower you with love. So she found that event and we were just like excited, looking forward to it and everything. And when we got there, the lines were kind of long and it was moving sort of slow. And Elijah was like, oh, come on. And I was like, I didn't really think about that part. And he was like, oh, man. And he's got this thing now where he doesn't say mommy or daddy. He's like, mommy, daddy. Like, that's one person. Mommy, daddy, they're not moving. It's taking forever. And I got to thinking about other aspects of social interaction and stuff like that for the holidays for the people. What does that mean? For me, growing up, it was just the most blessed thing. Coming from the U.S. Virgin Islands, I became very quickly as used to a warm Christmas as the idea of traveling and seeing, a white one. And down there we grew up with, what we refer to as a tart, which is essentially, if I say a pie, I just feel like I'm butchering it and not doing it justice because it's 10 times better than a pie. But we're talking about things that come in flavors like guava, coconut, pineapple, and they're just, and they're not bought at a bakery. There's someone or different people in the community that make them. You go to that person's home after picking up, placing your order and pick them up. And again, you're talking about a small community between all the islands where, people know where you're supposed to be and know how you're supposed to act, and people look out for each other, people in your business too, but it's also a very loving environment and something that's just very, very special. But as far as the special needs component goes, I hadn't even thought of that. And you guys can dictate kind of when we go there, but because she's guest here today and hasn't been here before and is on for the first time, I wanted to talk about, you and Jordan in particular, some of the things that she wasn't supposed to be able to do, the limitations that she supposedly had. I'm using air quotes for those of us that are actually watching, versus where she is now and the fact that she is about to, enjoy this first holiday season as a married woman.
Wow. Yes.
Just talk about that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll start, and then I'm just going to hand it to Joe. I mean, and for those who have listened to us talk about this before, when Jordan was 18 months old, our diagnosis, our neurologist had no bedside manner, and I think that's something I hear often, with special needs families, is that the directness with how diagnoses are communicated, with lack of emotion and lack of support and lack of empathy. We were told all of the things that Jordan wouldn't be able to do, wouldn't, live alone, wouldn't live, without assisted care, wouldn't drive a car, wouldn't have a job, wouldn't graduate high school. All of those things were things that we were told. But Joe, why don't you tell us where things are for you now? Let you say it. I don't have to talk about it.
Well, I'm graduating high school, actually 6 years ago. I'm driving my car. I've been driving for 2 years. I got my license in 2018. So I drive myself to and from work. I have a kid in my back seat, and I'm driving with kids in my car, which I wasn't really, I never imagined, let alone driving, but now I have a car seat in my car, which is like added like unimaginary or unimaginable. I obviously I'm living on my own. I have my husband. I'm living with my husband. When I moved from LA across the country to New York by myself, I've been traveling on my own many times before. I don't need assistant living or needing an aid or anything because I'm on my own. I'm independent. I proved everybody that whoever said I couldn't do something, I proved all of them wrong by doing exactly everything that I was told no and told not to do. I'm doing everything that I'm able to do.
It's great, and you have family, and your mom lives up in the area, but you were not living with your mom. You're living on your own in your own apartment.
I have my own apartment. I was on my own. I have my own apartment. I've been living on my own since 19. And then when I met my husband, I moved him into my apartment 2 months after we met. But I've always been on my own before that anyway. So I've always had roommates, but me having my boyfriend, husband at that time was a really, really special treat.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. Susanna, as you're dealing with stuff, and we'll come back to you, Joe, in a sec too. But Susanna, just on the sort of the holiday traditions and today being one of these crazy days, what's happening in your world, and what are the kinds of things that you and Zoe, you in Arizona, do during the end of the year, holiday celebrations? And
and firstly, Joe, I can talk to you all day long because you are just a constant source of inspiration for me. I've told you this before in terms of me being the mother of a daughter who is 14 and just not really having any. I know we all have different challenges, right? We've all been told, this whole list of nevers, never do this, never do that, never do, right? So anyway, I just want to acknowledge that I'm so grateful to be talking to you because, it makes me feel like, okay, so I wonder what is, what is possible for my daughter who is now 14. I still can't imagine her driving, but when she was 3, I couldn't even imagine her doing what she's doing now at all. So anyway, I just wanted to sort of bless this moment because I'm so grateful, Joe, and thank you for being a unofficial big sister to my little Arizona who may or may not. Yeah.
Off of that, you're welcome, by the way. It's a pleasure. There is always a light at the end of the tunnel. Even though you think you are good, it's never going to get there. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And a little bit more about me, like I work with kids and I'm working at the Y and I've been doing that for 2 years, but I've always worked with kids my whole life. And me never feeling like I feel like I'm always never like the perfect, like a great person, or I feel like I'm never gonna get great teacher. I know I'm making a difference with all those kids that I've been around my whole life, from since I was in 10th grade to now. I've been around kids, and I know and I've seen the difference, and I know I made an impact in their lives. So your daughter is 14, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I didn't think I was going to be a good driver. I don't think anyone did. And I'm
did you learn from your dad though? Did you learn your driving skills?
Well, we did early on. We did early on. We tried early on when she was driving age, and yeah, I think that's when my gray hairs began. It was challenging in the early days, but no. Ultimately, she did not. Ultimately, she.
My mom's boyfriend actually helped. Just because it helped without being with my mom or dad, because it was very stressful with both of them, and I didn't feel like they were. I don't want to say they didn't let me. You weren't like letting me do it, but I felt like they were just more nervous or anything, and I just felt like that didn't really help me.
What do you mean?
Well, okay, so here's what I mean.
I know, I'm kidding. Of course.
It was very stressful.
It was stressful.
It was very stressful, and he was like, "No, like."
Okay, all right, don't talk. I'm just kidding. All of the truths are going to come out, you guys.
And the winding roads. Well, that's what I do every day when I go to work now. Is I could do those roads, but it was very challenging at one point.
Just to be fair, it's a lot easier driving in the countryside, upstate New York, as opposed to in Los Angeles, where it's almost impossible to find quiet places to drive and learn.
But quiet up here either.
Yeah, well, all right, Susanna, I just recommend maybe letting somebody else teach Arizona how to do it.
I think, you know what, I'm just even wondering, in a couple of years, will there be like just self-driving cars everywhere?
Possible.
So perhaps she doesn't need to. I
mean, that's interesting.
Who knows?
That
interesting.
Maybe by the time that she will be ready, sort of like emotionally, psychologically, to be on her own, to go from one place to the next, it could be maybe when she's 20. I don't know. I have no idea.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, right.
Wouldn't that be great for people who are in technology to think that this is a massive benefit to families with special needs, family members, that if self-driving cars could escort, our children to places that they need to be, what an amazing advancement that would be. It would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's on the horizon, and, there are probably so many other things to consider too, but, anyway, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see we don't know. We just don't know.
Right. Yeah.
No, we don't. That kind of leads into the other thing too, is just generally speaking, Brian was asking, kind of what the holidays are like, and, just in terms of remove special needs. And we one thing that the show has caused us to do is look at, is there even really such a thing as special needs? The needs aren't special or different. They're the same needs. They're everybody having the same needs, but our children or people with a supposed disability or diagnosis simply have more of the same needs. And this year has really, each year, you end in December, you get ready to plan for the next year, maybe a little bit of hoping. Most people do more hoping than actual planning, which means little action is taken. But this year has gotten me to think about the coming year unlike any other before. So what you just mentioned in terms of whether it's self-driving cars or whatever the case is, you're just thinking ahead with a different set of eyes, and even the way in which you look upon the day is with a different set of eyes. It's just nothing that you take for granted, because the world has changed, as we know it, for good. When they talk about getting back to normal, those words, back to normal, are redefined as well, because it's not going to go back to the normal that we know.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
On the way, actually, like me thinking about our conversation today, I was actually thinking about having the word special needs and what that actually is. And I keep thinking to myself, I don't have special needs. I'm not a special need child. I had my my difficulties growing up. I've had my struggles, but I don't really feel like we're all in this category of special needs. We all are different, and we all are uniquely challenged in our own unique way. But I don't believe I have special needs. I have a learning disability, meaning I learn differently, and I've been in special ed for my own thing. But we were all like, my classmates and I were all in special ed for our own struggles and our own personal development. But I was not categorized as I was a special needed child who needed special ed. I was uniquely challenged in my own unique way that I needed extra help.
Tell me,
Show's over.
Jordan,
Thanks, everybody.
did you feel that way
Holy cow.
at the time? And here's where wisdom comes into, because Brian, if you know, you and I talked about how there's someone we know that has a very popular show that has been ending their show with a very powerful question, which I've been trying to close out on, and ask people, which is, what do you believe in now? What is their name one strong belief or opinion that you had that has now changed? And one for me was it's just about perspective. I remember Jordan and I had that conversation, I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago, because when we were doing our events for financial literacy for the special needs community, Jordan mentioned, well, some of my friends are going to come in. I don't know if they might feel put off by that label. And my thought was at the time, well, I don't know how else and this is unfortunate, I think it's accurate, but unfortunate, which is as we're reaching out to other families to let them know about these events that help them with financial education, opportunity, and services, if you don't market it with those words, will they know that it is in fact for them? And while that might be true, to Jordan's point again, which is that the needs aren't special, the amount of the needs may be different, and it's just like how information is received. I mean, at the end of the day, there are severe challenges, there are moderate ones, and we don't consider someone that likes one flavor of food more or less special than someone that likes the other. The language just might have to be different in terms of how something is explained, and we run the risk of not seeing somebody's value when we get stuck on that limitation, even though society says that we need to use it so people understand, who it is that we're talking to. But and I don't know that I had that again before this portion of our journey, because the journey is completely changed. And between the show, our events, and the holidays, and everything that's transpired in the past year, I just see those things differently. And like I said, I'm hearing her say it for the second time, but it's just completely different.
I don't know, Susanna, you look like you were going to say
well,
something.
I mean, I'm also not long-winded. I always have so much to say. No. I think it's just so beautiful because yes, we all have needs. We all have special needs, and then we all have our own unique needs. It's actually something that I had to take a pause in terms of, my title, my business, which is life coach for special needs families. Now that sort of description and moniker might turn some families off. And so I've had to explain to a lot of different families, like, what does that necessarily mean? Because it could be anything extra that you're just dealing with as a family. To me, that is, and here I come from, the situation with my experience in raising my child who has a disability. She has a lot of diagnoses, but to be honest, I mean, Jo, you probably have had this experience too, where a lot of the diagnoses just allow for the eligibility to get her particular services in school, for example, or through the regional center, or through insurance, or however it needs to look. It just, the labels count. So we have to ride the wave of that sometimes too.
But for me, honestly, to just have Jordan articulate what she just articulated as her parent, I mean, I'm not going to, get all leaky eyed as we talk about a lot, but I mean, that's look, I'm sitting like, for those who aren't seeing, it's like I'm squirming in my seat, because it's sort of like, that's, as a parent, you want to have your children have this self, realization, and you want your children to be, self-driven, and the fact that Jordan acknowledges that she had some learning disabilities, learning difficulties when she was younger, that she doesn't see herself in that way, and in fact doesn't want to be labeled, as we've talked about, in a particular way. And I think that that's so empowering for her, but it's also empowering for those families who have younger children who are thinking, oh my gosh, is my child going to be independent, live independently? Will my child get to that sort of self-actualization point? And obviously along the spectrum, everybody's going to be a little different, but I will tell you, Jordan, I mean, I'm so proud of what you've done and what you've accomplished, and your continuous growth. For me as a dad, it's like I have two others that I'm still dealing with too, but as far as Joe's concerned, I feel like we as a family and parents and the parental structure, we've done a really good job at supporting that growth. So proud.
And
anyway.
so, right. And so isn't it so amazing that what we're seeing with Joe and our children, also Elijah in Arizona, I mean, even, on different levels, but just little bits of self-advocacy, right? Just sort of understanding what my needs are, what are my unmet needs, being able to express in different forms. That, to me, sign me up all day to continue to be your biggest cheerleader, because don't we all strive for that, even now as adults?
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So it's beautiful.
Well, thank you. And even as like having a learning disability, having the extra support of like the rehabilitation center and seeking out for extra help, it isn't all like I don't want to look at it as like a negative thing. I want to look like this is more assistance for me to be able to grow and for me to be able to get the help and support that I need to move forward and to grow up and to grow more of a person. And then look at it as a negative way. It's, oh, this is more help that I need. Oh, this is more defining my learning disability or my special needs. But I try to look at it as a positive way of, look, this is more support that I'm seeking for myself as a person to be able to grow and being like, look, I took the help. I got the help I needed. And look where I am now because I looked for that help. Instead of looking at it as, oh, I'm more of a handicapped person. I'm looking for, I got the tools I need, and now I'm an adult, and now I'm married, and I got it because I got the help, and I had reached out my hand and said, grab it and help me guide me to where I needed to be.
Jordan, let me ask you this, because your dad and I are the seniors here, and so whether it's the Virgin Islands or Los Angeles, I'm sure that he would agree. In our day and age, anything that was quote unquote special was, frowned upon. Like, I never had a diagnosis, but when I was physically in a classroom, I was never mentally there. So I had a bunch of tutors and people trying to figure stuff out and everything. And I was this enigma because they'd be like, if you have a conversation with the kid, he seems as bright as anybody else, but why is he not quote unquote there? I put my parents through the ringer in that regard. And at one, and I even, truth be told, I repeated fourth grade. And when that happened, or there's anything special, people joke about the short bus, whatever have you, there's a stigma that goes along with that. So I'm curious for your generation, the way you're talking so openly right now about, look, I'm glad for the help, bring it on, bring it on. In our generation, and I'm sure, like I said, your dad would agree, you wouldn't be like, no, you can bring it on, but don't let anybody know. Let's come help me in private, nice and quiet, not anybody know. How did you avoid that? And then was it like that? Was there the same stigma when you were growing up?
So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna answer that, but I'm gonna go back to when I grow up, and then I'll respond to how I am now. Growing up, I was hush hush. It was all hush hush. Oh, I'm in special ed, but I got bullied. I was heavily bullied because I was in special ed. I was heavily labeled as a, excuse my Frank, retarded person or a mentally retarded person. Oh, I'm mentally unstable, so I can't I have to have the extra help. But so I was all hush hush. I was so embarrassed having him be in special ed. When I needed a tutor, I was so embarrassed having a tutor. I didn't tell anybody.
Right.
Now I am that person to be like, let me advocate for you. You don't want that help. Let me secretly help you. I'm not going to tell your friends, but let me help you. Let me tutor you. If you need help, just come up and tell me, and we'll do it together. And nobody will know. Yes, because I know you're embarrassed, but I'm not going to embarrass you.
Right.
You need a hand. I'll be your helping hand, but I won't embarrass you. If you're embarrassed, I get it. It's an embarrassing thing, but you shouldn't be embarrassed of it. And
Right.
I mean, I see the younger generation. I am around a 13-year-old boy who's not my brother, and he needs help. And I am happy to be like, here's my hand. I helped last year, I helped a 4th grader beginning to read. By the end of the year, he didn't need my help anymore at school. He was like, oh no, I got it.
Right.
In the very
Right.
beginning, I was sitting with him every day after school, helping him with homework. And then at the very end, he didn't need it.
It's funny because you bring up a point that I as a parent always wondered, right? The difference, and again, for special needs parents, the whole point, Shawn, I think you're making this point, and Susanna, you can chime in here as well, but we feel like the magnifying scope, the magnifying glass is on us as parents as well. We're also sensitive to it as well. I used to think, is this, because I remember when Jordan had an aide in high school, and she was like, I don't want to talk to the aide. I don't want the aide around. I don't want the aide following me down the hall. I don't want to be seen, right? And that was at 16 years old. And so you think, is this just normal 16-year-old behavior, or is this heightened because of the special needs issues, right?
We blur the line a lot.
It's right. That's a question that always comes into play. Is this teenage? And I struggled with that too, as Jordan was my oldest, and I'm sure with Arizona being the only child. Like, is this normal teenage girl behavior, or is this heightened by this ultra sensitivity?
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to respond to that. So it is a normal, yes, if you are a normal high school student and you struggle and you have a hard time and you make mistakes, and yes, but I think there's also a flaw in the school districts because they don't know how to handle kids who have heightened behavioral, I don't want to say behavioral issues, because that's not what it is. I think they just don't know how to handle students who are developmentally. We're all different. Again, we're all unique, but I think that there's a flaw definitely in the school districts that they are like, well, we're just going to give you an aid just because we think that you need it, when they may be perfectly fine, but they're just like, we don't want to handle it. We want you to handle it. We're going to give you an aid just because we don't want to deal with it, or we already have too many students. We just want this one student to be fine.
Right.
And not really thinking about the stigma that may come with that for the child, right?
Right.
Yes. And then on the flip side too, in terms of the parental experience, there is also this real thing that if you do not receive accommodations, it's very difficult for you to then go back and ask for additional accommodations. It's kind of like, well, if you don't think you need that, then you probably don't need this, and this either. It's all just a matter of every day, you yourself as the child, as the student, advocating for yourself, but also your parents in the background saying, okay, but how does this work? We don't know either. It's a constant puzzle, and we're putting the pieces together. And I would offer to say that it can change every year. And I know, Jo, you had an experience with multiple schools throughout your life too, right?
I have, yeah.
And how was that? I mean, I can imagine that didn't necessarily make things smoother.
It didn't. It didn't. Going from school to school at a very, very young age, like kindergarten, and going to like 12 different schools till I was at least 18, it was very difficult. And the bullying got worse, and me trying to fit in got worse. And the school districts were not, it was the same school district. And so I was still dealing with what I was dealing with before, which was I didn't get the help I needed. And I felt like everybody was talking for me and I couldn't advocate for myself. And when my mom and my dad were trying to help me out as a kid, I felt like I was just being spoken for. And it was very difficult because I felt like I wanted to be able to advocate for myself and be able to show off my work in the meetings. And when I did have I had an IEP. And having an IEP was also a very difficult thing because I felt like everybody was making decisions for me when I felt like, let me tell you what I think I need. Let me advocate for myself. Don't put me into different classes and different schools because you think this is what is going to help me. This is what I'm going to need. Because in fact, it's not going to help me. It's just going to make my learning more difficult or being in more classes, which is going to be more hard for me.
And sometimes it's just because it's easier for the school. Right?
For sure.
It's like it's easier for the school to handle this particular child. So we're going to just go ahead and put them over there in that category or whatever.
For sure.
Yeah.
And listen, you know, there's a fine line, right, between providing your child with a support that you think they need to in order to be successful, and then being overly protective. And I don't know if we shared this when we were having our sort of preliminary conversations, but we've had some traumatic experiences as well with Jordan. Again, this whole concept of allowing your child to self-advocate, and at the end of the day, I think for every parent, they want their child to be able to fit in and feel like they're part of a community. But we had an experience when Jordan was a freshman in high school, where she was in a mainstream school, but in a very large high school in Los Angeles, with and she had, and this is where she got an aide after an incident, but she had friends that she was fitting in with, and one of the gals that she was friends with, Jordan became very closely aligned. She has noise in the background, so she's stepping away for a second, which is probably good as I have this conversation. And Jordan was doing what Jordan does. You can see Jordan she's such an amazing being. She's so loving and so wants to be a part of something. And so she was having a conversation with a group of boys that she knew that one of her girlfriends liked, right? This is typical high school behavior, right? Oh, this girl likes this boy and this boy likes this girl. And so she said to one of these boys, you should really, you should go out with the girlfriend. Well, the girlfriend got upset because Jordan was she thought interfering in her business. And the girl was working in a library at school, and Jordan was there, and the girl yanked Jordan into the back storage room, shut the door so nobody could get in, and pulled out a knife and slashed her across the top of her arm. You're going to show for those who can see, there's a scar there for those who can see this on podcast. And that was 9 years ago. It was such a traumatic experience. And I think, again, part of the issue as parents, what we looked at was, our fear was that Jordan wasn't going to know that she was in a dangerous situation until it was too late, right? Until it was in the middle of it. And this was an example of that. And by the way, this girl completely freaked out when it happened, and had, it's one of those like a moment of rage, and this happened, and luckily it was on the top. This is a terrible thing. So luckily it was on the top of the arm. Never want your child to be in danger, to be slashed with a knife. Had it been on the underside of her arm, she would have bled out. Like it could have been much more serious. And we as parents were so grateful that it wasn't as
it's okay, man.
These are big.
These are big things, and we talk about the struggle to achieve balance between. You got to stop that.
Yeah.
The balance between striking a balance between allowing your kid to catch fish on their own,
right,
and teaching them to catch fish. And that's, again, that's something that applies to any parent, special needs or not.
Yes.
But again, that's where the line gets blurred, where you're like, you know, you go back and forth between my child is going to be independent. I'm going to let them sit in a diaper and figure out how to change it and cook a meal, versus I'm going to tie their shoe. I'm going to finish their sentences and think for them. I'm going to take out anybody that comes anywhere near them. That's the part that's just like the big fight, and you don't ever get over it. And then so then you're like, how much am I enabling? How much am I helping? You know,
Yes.
and that's the
Yeah.
part that's just real stuff, you know?
Yes.
And as a daughter and as the kid, I saw the struggle, on the constant struggle of my mom and dad. I could see them both being like, I want to help you, but I want to give you independence. I want to help you. I want to give you independence. And seeing how my mom was trying to speak for me because she wanted to make sure I was safe, but she was trying to give me that independence. And I slipped many times. So and that's why I give like so much praise and so much gratefulness and thankfulness to my family and to my parents as that special needs daughter and as a special needs child, to be like, thank you for doing this, because I could see the struggle and I've been with the challenges because I've been there with you throughout everything, because I am the reason. So as a 25-year-old, I wanted to say thank you, Dad, and saying, and I appreciate you, and I'm like grateful for you, because like I've been there. I've been
Cameras
there.
Cameras off.
I've been through the struggle, and I've been through the challenges, and I've seen the constant struggle in your mind being like, I wanted to help you, but then like you lost the trust. But I wanted to help you, but then I still feel like you need a little bit more. And it's just that constant back and forth. And so look who I am, like, as like the outside of it is, I'm here. And this is the outcome of everything that happened. I'm here.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
You are in all your magnificent glory. And I think that it is an ongoing parallel journey for all of us to find our true selves and to find our true voice, who we are at our, intrinsic core, our children, us. I believe that I listen, I only have one child and she is neurodiverse. And I feel like there's a reason why she chose me to be her mother, so that I would have this opportunity to seek out deeper meaning to my own life. And the learnings around, why are we here, Brian and Shawn? Why are we here? So it is a gift.
I just want to say, we usually do this towards the end, but listening to both of you, meaning Susanna and Jordan, obviously you two as well, Brian, but they're not with us every day. I'm just so thankful for the platform that we have and what we've created here and the people that support us. Robert, who's on, every week from the Virgin Islands, Alex Philstein, who's tuning in for the first time from Canada. Because people that are watching are us and we are them. And any other environment, if we were on a show, I would be, trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how is this going to work? Because my son is supposed to be on due to his autism and the fact that he produces, less melatonin and whatnot. He's got a rock star sleeping schedule, went to bed at 5 o'clock this morning. Is he going to be on? And so to be able to sit here and have him walk in, if he does now, if he's up, if he's not, or whatever, that, you can't put a price on that for us to be able to do that. And again, that's what, to be here and be able to do this and know that somebody out there can get that, from us. We're like, it's okay. Don't make it any more special than it is, but don't let anybody sell you short. I'm just thankful for all of this and everybody that tunes in.
I think that's the point of us doing this show today, right? I think when you wind down the end of the year and take a breath and think about what's transpired over the last year, and it's always a good chance to reflect, and then think about what you want to deliver and create for the year to come. I'm grateful for this as well, and our partnership on this, Shawn, and expanding that partnership and our village with you, Susanna, and what an amazing opportunity to be able to share this with with my daughter and for everybody to see. We talk about this as we go through these, as we as parents go through the challenges that all parents deal with, and yet we don't know what the future is going to hold. We don't know what we're going to encounter, and so we try to help our kids be the best versions of themselves they possibly can, and hopefully in turn we become the best versions of ourselves. And as we get older, we want to contribute to the world in any way that we can, and this is just one of the opportunities that we have to share with people some of the magic. I mean, geez, you guys, look at what I get, by the way, on a daily basis. I get to have communication with Snow White over here. Can I tell that story really fast?
Oh,
Yes.
I was going to say, please
Yes,
do.
please.
Please do.
Yes,
Please do.
please.
Please do.
So this is really short. Just the impact that people can have. By the way, anybody who's listening or anybody who's watching us, like you don't know the impact that you can have on others in the world. And so if you have a thought and it could make a difference in somebody's life, please share it. We were at Disneyland when Jordan was very young. She was probably 3 or 4 years old. I don't even know. And for those who can't see her on the screen, she's jet black hair, this very white, very pale white skin, beautiful blue eyes, and these ruby red lips. That's a natural color. That's great.
That's my next.
And we we were walking in Disneyland. We were walking through Disneyland, and all the characters who dress up as the various Disney characters, which all the kids love to see. But Snow White actually walked towards us and made an exaggerated stop to look at Jordan, and stopped and with her big eyes and grabbed her hands and said, "Oh my gosh, I look like you!" And it was such an impactful thing because we thought, "Oh my God, Jordan, you look like Snow White," but Snow White was like, "No, I look like you. I, the princess, look like you." And for years, we called Jordan Snow White. And again, I don't have any passwords that are the same word, but my password that used to be Snow White is because it was so impactful for us. But for Jordan, she always, I just say, let you tell your, like, that was impactful for you, yeah?
No, yeah, for sure. Like that was my password too before. That's my favorite princess today. But I look at pictures today from when I was little, and I'm like, I had little short black hair at that time. I had my freckles, my blue eyes, and my lips, and I looked like her.
What does that mean for you?
Yeah,
sorry,
such an impactful.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
what does that mean? Because I'm thinking of what you were saying, Brian. We're like, because sometimes we think of doing something, and it's funny. These types of conversations have made me as conscious as I think I am and try to be. I've increased that. If I have half a passing thought to say or do anything remotely positive to anybody, I was like, I need to act on that right now in the middle of that moment, because you have no idea. Jordan, what did that mean for you, for somebody to just say that out of the blue?
For sure changed my perspective on life, and being like, I have beauty inside and out, and it's my true beauty. And it meant like the world to me, because I'm like, I am beautiful inside and out. And I don't know. I love myself, and I always have. And I've struggled, but I've always loved myself, and I don't need to change myself for anybody. And I love myself, and I feel beautiful no matter what.
That is
Inside
everything.
out. I mean,
That is
down.
everything.
What else, right?
What else
Job
you
is
need as a
done.
parent, right?
Well, I mean, I'm married. I'm happily married. About to go into that. I found someone who loves me for me, and who accepts me for who I am without judgment, and who, I finally found my true person and my true prince, because he doesn't make me want to change for anybody else. And we have our ups and downs, but he accepts me for he's been through thick and thin, and he loves me no matter what. and I don't have to change myself just to make him happy, and I don't have to please him just to make me feel good about myself. I feel good about myself no matter what, and because of that, I found somebody who mirrors that.
And that's what we hope for.
And especially, honestly, like just in terms of being the mother of a daughter, the empowerment that we can, spread to other young girls. I mean, it's such a necessity.
Here's what that says.
Yeah.
Here's what that says to someone who's not in the room at all. His dad, or whatever, I don't know if his dad raised him or if there's a different father figure or whoever, but just as a girl learns what to expect from a man when she becomes a woman, based upon the example that her father shows her, again, where the responsibility comes in. So too does a man learn how to treat a woman based on the example that his father has given him. And his has got to have given him, a good example to go by in that regard. I'm blessed to have that from my dad, and that we can have a whole another show on that. But that's things that are missing within society, which is what's responsible for our gender having the struggles that they do, and that's not even special needs. That's just human needs. So for him to do that that's fantastic. So you make sure that you tell your father-in-law that we said that.
And as a father, I couldn't ask for anything better, right? Not only is he an amazing young man, his family, they are truly amazing. Yeah.
You can't ask for a better in-laws.
So loving. It's really incredible. And again, that's what we hope for as we walk down the aisle and we hand our daughter's hand to the man of her dreams, right? That we hope that they'll honor her and take care of her the way that we've always envisioned. And we have that with Suelkin. His name is Suelkin. He's a lovely man, and I think her mom and I all feel blessed and honored.
Excellent.
This is a good show, man. I've lost about probably a pound in all of my shedding my tears today. It's pride.
Tears of truth.
Truth and pride, right?
You're a little more contagious today than usual with those tears too. So
you guys almost got me. Well, Joe almost got me. I was like, we all can't, and I have mascara, so then it would really be obvious,
There's one more thing I wanted to bounce off before we close, is that I was thanking my dad. I think it was my birthday, and my mom, and I was saying, thank you for giving me a life, because there was a purpose that I had to fulfill, because that you gave me the life. And that purpose that I fulfill, I am fulfilling it because I am impacting the kid's life that I encounter every single day of my life.
Fantastic.
Or anybody in that fact.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Wow. Stop it.
Brian, while you cry.
Yeah, for real.
Susanna, if you can, share with some of our families, just as a life coach for special needs families, 3 quick points that families can kind of action points that families can put into play to get ready for 2021, depending on what it is they want to accomplish, other than the following, which is, let's not think about just surviving through 2021, but thriving.
Yes,
3 quick points.
3 quick points. Okay. So, well, I would say number 1 is to have a time as a family in whatever way that you best communicate, to sort of sit down and go around and say like what your intentions are for the new year. That could be just a word, a feeling, just an intention of how do you want the new year to start. Don't look at the entire new year yet, because that's too overwhelming. Just like, how do we want the new year to start? Let's start with January. I would also say, like, just really make it a priority for the family togetherness and the family relationship to be number 1, because there are so many things happening right now with remote schooling and remote this and this, all things that are new normals for us now. And we're stressing out so much about these new things that are not always going to be, right? So there a lot of things are actually quite temporary right now. So I would say focus on the thriving relationship that you can have with your child. If it means taking a day off of school, if it means whatever it means, at all costs, that should be number 1. So that's 2 points. And then the third point I would say is that for each person to really understand and know, like, what is my joy? And to really be able to tap into that on a daily basis. And it could be different every single day, right? We could wake up one morning, Joe, and you're like, you know what? Today my joy is going to be going out and making, snow angels in the yard, with my nephew or whatever it is, right? So what is your joy today? And then I think that if each person in the family can tap into what brings them joy, and to really make that just sort of like, let's talk about what brought us joy today, like at the dinner table, what are we grateful for? Just so many things in terms of like, we need to just constantly give ourselves affirmations, and not try to bite off the whole year ahead of us. Like, well, I want to do 17 things. It's too much. Let's just focus on a few.
I think it's great advice.
But yes, thriving, not just surviving, for sure. All day.
Excellent.
I know we're getting close to the end of our time. I for the first time I actually have it up the screen up. I can read comments, and I love Robert's comment. Like, we need 2-hour shows. We're not a 1-hour show is not enough. We always get to the end and we're like, oh my gosh, is the hour over? I think that's what I love most about this is the energy that I get and the feeling of connectedness that I get and the feeling of family that I get out of doing having these conversations. By the way, I think these are, and I joke about it because Shawn and I, we have these conversations all the time. It's why we started doing this podcast, just two dads, because we have these conversations of connectedness and relatedness and family, even though we're not family. I feel like we're, we easily fit into each other's family. Yeah, without a doubt. Like almost sometimes more family than our blood families to some degree, right? Mm-hmm. I love doing this show, and it's all about empathy and love. You guys can see, I am so blessed as a parent with this beautiful being and work that she's doing in the world. And her siblings are phenomenal people as well. And, again, I feel like I've done a decent job as a parent. I have parental partners, so I don't do this all on my own. And so I'm grateful for their support. I'm grateful for so many things, but for Jordan to have this life she has, I'm grateful to God and those who have a watchful eye over what it is that we're doing. I'm grateful for all of you. Shawn, I'm grateful for you in this partnership. Susanna, I love you dearly. I love having you in partnership with us as well. And sorry we didn't get a chance to spend time with your children, because I know the pride I feel for being on with Jordan, but I know we're going to get a chance to do that again soon. And as we sort of wrap up the year, we're going to have another show here before the end of the year. But as we wrap up, I just wanted to thank you and tell you all I feel blessed and share empathy and love with everybody as much as we possibly can. That's the word these days.
Most definitely.
So grateful.
Mm-hmm. In closing us out, I want to, before I get into the things I usually close with, there's an even deeper level of gratitude because beginning next Monday, we will also be heard on WSTX radio, which, as I say that out loud, is kind of surreal because that's one of the radio stations that I grew up with in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and to be able to go home and take Brian along for the ride is just it's immeasurable. And I want to thank Robert Moorhead for his support, his encouragement, and everything. And thank everyone that listens. Know that you can follow us on Instagram. I am Shawn Francis at Instagram. Brian is Brian Altuner at Instagram. Susanna is I believe Mama Peace. Mama Peace at Instagram.
Mama Peace.
And then we are also on our YouTube page, where you can find episodes of the show there, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and about I think 3 or 4 other outlets that I am not even familiar with, but deeply thankful for. And so the very last thing before we go is just know that somebody someplace needs to know that you care. Somebody someplace needs to know that they matter. Somebody someplace needs to know that they are heard. That is what we all need, I don't care how much you make. I don't care how much you earn. I don't care how much you give. That is what everybody needs. That is what everybody is about. That's what everything is about. And that's what it is that's going to save us. If we look at the children around us, they have the answer to everything. We come into this world closer to perfect than we realize. So we must retain that innocence and remain childlike. Avoid becoming childish and save each other and the world. I love each and every one of you.
Susanna and Jo, thank you, Shawn, for doing that. But Susanna and Jo, you guys want to say something really quick before we sign off? We're getting close to the end. But...
So grateful, and many more to come. Cannot wait.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Jo, sign us off.
Grateful for everything. Thank you for having me on. Thank you guys for listening to my story and where I came from and where I am now. Thank you guys for having me.
Yes. Oh, and then thank you to the women in my life, my amazing wife Laura and my mom Jan. Thank you so much.
And Shawn Hall for producing our show for us on a regular basis. Thank you, Shawn. And
I know
Robert
I forgot something for producing our show from Hawaii and putting in the chat on Facebook everything about our upcoming adventure. Thank you so very much, Shawn. Thank you, everyone.
We're excited. Thank you, everybody.
Right,
love you. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
See you all.